Hughes also explores the internalized racism that can manifest in other ways, the ways in which Black people can sometimes perpetuate the very stereotypes and prejudices that are used against them.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that racism is not just an external force. It can also be internalized and have a profound impact on individuals and communities.
Welcome to Witter. Who Has Time to Read? The podcast that brings deep dives for busy minds. Listen to AI hosts Jane and Dane and get ready to unpack the world's most captivating books in just a fraction of the time. Whether commuting, working out, or just squeezing in a quick break, we deliver key insights, thought-provoking themes, and takeaways you can carry into your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Plus, use our links in the description to purchase this book. Your support helps us bring more engaging book discussions to you. Listen and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Who has time to read? You do, with Witter.
Welcome back to Witter, your shortcut to deep dives for busy minds.
Deep dives.
Whatever
That's right, for busy minds.
Exactly.
I like it.
This February, we're celebrating Black History Month with our Black Voices series.
Okay.
And today,
All right.
we're diving into a collection of short stories.
Okay.
By Langston Hughes, a pivotal figure in the Harlem Renaissance.
Ah, Langston Hughes, a master storyteller.
Yes.
His work is always thought-provoking.
It is. The book is called The Ways of White Folks, published in 1934.
Okay.
It's a powerful exploration of race relations in America, told through the lens of various encounters between Black and white characters.
It's fascinating how Hughes uses these individual stories to create a mosaic of the Black experience in America during that era.
Yeah.
Each story offers a unique glimpse into the complex dynamics between Black and white Americans in the early 20th century.
Right. It's not one continuous narrative.
Right.
But rather a collection of 14 individual short stories, each with its own distinct characters and setting.
Yeah.
And yet they all come together to paint this really vivid picture of the social and economic disparities faced by Black individuals.
He doesn't shy away from the uncomfortable truths about prejudice, discrimination, and the limited opportunities available to Black people at the time.
And what's particularly striking is how he explores the theme of objectification and exploitation.
Yeah.
Many of the stories depict white characters who view Black individuals as objects of fascination or entertainment.
You're right.
Almost like they're not fully human.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
You see this in stories like Slave on the Block, where a white couple is obsessed with Black art, but completely oblivious to the humanity of their Black servants.
Right.
It's a poignant critique of the ways in which Black culture was often appropriated and commodified.
Absolutely. And it's not just external forces that Hughes examines. He also delves into the internal struggles of Black Americans, the psychological toll of racism, and the idea of passing as white.
Right. This internal conflict is so beautifully portrayed in stories like Home, where a Black musician returns to his hometown after traveling the world and is confronted with the harsh realities of racism, even within his own community.
Yeah.
He feels like a stranger in his own land.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But despite all the hardship they face, the Black characters in Hughes' stories also demonstrate remarkable resilience.
That's what makes these stories so inspiring.
Yes.
Even in the face of adversity, they find ways to maintain their dignity, their sense of self, and their hope for a better future.
Let's talk about some specific examples that really highlight these themes.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is Cora Unashamed. It's the story of a Black maid who raises both her own child and the white family's daughter, finding solace in her connection to the children despite the limitations placed upon her by society.
Cora's story is incredibly moving.
It is.
She represents the strength and resilience of so many Black women who navigated incredibly difficult circumstances with grace and determination.
Then there's Red-Headed Baby, a shocking tale that exposes the dangers of prejudice and the lasting impact of racial mixing in a society deeply divided along color lines.
This story really highlights the absurdity and cruelty of racial prejudice. The way a child's innocence is threatened simply because of their mixed heritage is a powerful indictment of the societal norms of the time.
And we can't forget Father and Son, a powerful story about a rebellious son who challenges his white father, leading to a tragic confrontation that reflects the deep-seated tensions and power imbalances in the South.
This story really digs into the generational trauma of slavery and racism.
Right.
The ways in which the sins of the past continue to haunt the present.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the fight for racial equality is an ongoing struggle.
And one more I'd like to mention is The Blues I'm Playing, which centers on a young black pianist named Osceola navigating the world of classical music while trying to stay true to her own artistic voice.
Okay.
It beautifully explores the tension between artistic expression and societal expectations.
It's a story that resonates even today.
Yeah.
The pressure to conform, the challenges of finding your own path, and the complexities of navigating predominantly white spaces are themes that continue to be relevant.
I think it's amazing how Hughes weaves music into so many of his stories.
Yeah.
It's clearly such an integral part of the Black experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it adds another layer of depth and meaning to his work.
Absolutely. Hughes himself was a poet, a playwright, and a musician.
Right.
So music was deeply ingrained in his creative expression.
Yeah.
And it's through music that many of his characters find solace, connection, and a way to express their innermost feelings.
I think it's almost like music becomes a language, a way to communicate across racial and social divides.
Precisely. And it's not just the stories that focus specifically on music. You can feel the rhythm, the blues, the soul of Black music infused throughout the entire collection.
Yeah, it adds this really powerful emotional undercurrent through the work. And speaking of powerful emotions, another theme that runs throughout these stories is the exploration of internalized racism
Right.
and the concept of passing.
This is such a complex and nuanced issue.
It is.
Hughes doesn't offer easy answers or judgments.
Right.
Instead, he presents the characters' choices and struggles with empathy and understanding.
One story that really delves into this is Passing,
Yes.
where a light-skinned Black man chooses to live as white, cutting off all ties to his family and his heritage.
Right.
It's a heart-wrenching tale of the sacrifices some people felt they had to make in order to survive in a racist society.
And it raises so many questions about identity,
It does.
belonging, and the psychological toll of denying one's true self.
Right. It makes you think about the pressures and expectations placed upon Black individuals during that era and how those pressures could lead to such difficult and often painful choices.
And it's not just about passing as white. Hughes also explores the internalized racism that can manifest in other ways, the ways in which Black people can sometimes perpetuate the very stereotypes and prejudices that are used against them.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that racism is not just an external force. It can also be internalized and have a profound impact on individuals and communities.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the complexity of the Black experience.
Yeah.
The ways in which individuals had to navigate a society that constantly sought to define and limit them.
So even though these stories were written almost a century ago,
Right.
they still feel incredibly relevant today. They touch on themes that are still so prevalent in our society. Racism, prejudice, identity, belonging, and the ongoing struggle for equality.
That's the mark of a truly great writer. The ability to capture universal human experiences that transcend time and place.
And Hughes does it with such skill and nuance.
He does.
His writing is both lyrical and unflinching. He's not afraid to confront the ugliness of racism while also celebrating the beauty and resilience of Black culture.
And he does it all with a touch of humor and wit.
He does.
It's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
There are moments of lightness and laughter that make these stories even more engaging and relatable.
Right, like in A Good Job Gone, which has this really interesting blend of humor, tragedy, and social commentary.
Oh, yeah.
It's about a young Black man who falls in love with a woman from Harlem while working for a wealthy white man.
Oh.
It's a wild ride.
I love that story.
Yeah.
It perfectly captures the complexities of interracial relationships during that time.
Yes.
The societal expectations, the prejudices, and the challenges of defying those norms.
And the ending is so unexpected. It really makes you think about the choices people make and the consequences of those choices.
Absolutely. Hughes is a master of crafting stories that stay with you long after you've finished reading them.
Yes.
They make you question, they make you think, they make you feel.
Now, another thing that struck me about these stories is the way Hughes portrays white characters. They're not all villains or monsters.
Right. There's a range of personalities and motivations among the white characters. Some are genuinely well-meaning, but oblivious to their own privilege and the ways in which they perpetuate racist systems.
Others are clearly prejudiced and discriminatory, but even those characters are portrayed with a certain level of complexity. They're not just caricatures.
Exactly. Hughes seems to be suggesting that racism is not just about individual bad actors. It's about a system, a way of thinking that has been ingrained in American society for centuries.
And he also shows how that system can corrupt even those who might otherwise be good people.
Right, like in Rejuvenation Through Joy, where a white woman opens a colony of joy based on what she perceives as primitive Black culture. It's a hilarious satire of cultural appropriation and the ways in which white people often exoticize and commodify Blackness.
It's such a brilliant and biting commentary on the hypocrisy of racism.
Absolutely, and it's a reminder that even those who claim to be allies can perpetuate harm through their ignorance and their unexamined biases.
So as we're reflecting on these stories and their relevance today, I think it's important to ask ourselves some tough questions.
Okay.
How have things changed since Hughes' time?
And how have they stayed the same?
What are the subtle and not so subtle ways in which racism continues to manifest in our society?
And what can we do to dismantle these systems of oppression?
I think Hughes' stories offer us a starting point, a way to understand the complexities of race and racism in America.
They provide a lens through which we can examine our own biases and our own complicity in perpetuating these systems.
And they inspire us to keep fighting for a more just and equitable world.
A world where everyone is valued and respected regardless of their race or ethnicity.
And one where the beauty and richness of Black culture are celebrated rather than appropriated or exploited. So as we continue our deep dive into the ways of white folks, let's keep these questions in mind. Let's use these stories as a catalyst for reflection, conversation, and action.
It's a call to action woven into these beautifully crafted narratives. And speaking of action, one story that really highlights the power of individual agency is Barry.
Yeah, Barry.
It follows a young Black man working at a summer home for crippled children and exposes the hypocrisy and exploitation he faces,
Right.
even in a seemingly charitable environment.
It's a stark reminder that good intentions don't always translate into just actions,
Right.
and that systems of oppression can permeate even the most well-meaning spaces.
Exactly. Barry's experience forces us to confront the ways in which systemic inequalities can be perpetuated by individuals
Right.
who may not even realize they are part of the problem.
And then there's Mother and Child, which is just heartbreaking.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It tells the story of a young Black mother struggling to provide for her son in a world that seems stacked against them.
Her resilience and unwavering love for her child in the face of such adversity is truly inspiring.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure.
Hughes has a way of capturing these universal emotions of love, loss, and hope, even within the context of these very specific and often challenging experiences of Black life in America.
Absolutely. And he doesn't shy away from portraying the strength and dignity of his characters,
Right.
even when they are facing unimaginable hardships.
Right, like in Little Dog, where we see Miss Briggs, a seemingly ordinary woman, so consumed by her own fears and prejudices
Right.
that she misses out on a genuine connection with a kind and caring man.
It's a subtle but powerful exploration of how societal norms and expectations can limit our ability to connect with others, to see past our differences and embrace our shared humanity.
And finally, we come to Father and Son. This story is a powder keg of emotions.
Yeah.
Exploring the complexities of family identity and the enduring legacy of slavery and racial injustice in the American South.
The confrontation between the son who returns home from college full of new ideas and the father clinging to the old ways is both explosive and heartbreaking.
It's a story that forces us to confront the generational trauma that continues to impact families and communities to this day.
And it reminds us that the struggle for racial justice is not just about changing laws or policies, it's about changing hearts and minds.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the ways of white folks, we're left with a lot to ponder.
We are.
These stories are not just historical artifacts, they're living, breathing testaments to the ongoing struggle for racial equality.
Absolutely.
They challenge us to examine our own biases and complicity in perpetuating systems of oppression.
They do.
And they inspire us to continue the fight for a more just and equitable world.
A world where everyone is valued and respected regardless of their race or ethnicity.
And one where the beauty and richness of Black culture are celebrated rather than appropriated or exploited.
We encourage you to seek out more works by Langston Hughes and other Black authors.
Yes.
Their voices offer invaluable insights into the complexities of the Black experience.
And they remind us that the journey towards understanding and equality is a continuous one.
A journey that requires constant reflection, learning, and action.
So what other Black voices are out there waiting to be heard?
What stories will resonate with you and challenge your perspectives?
We invite you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep engaging with the richness and diversity of Black literature.
It's a journey well worth taking.